Hi there, ladies and gents. My name's Naz. I'm here from a company called Battle Bootcamp. Now, Battle Bootcamp is an outdoor fitness provider that specializes in delivering bootcamp classes at parks across the country. Now, we're a military veteran-run company, and I personally manage the venue over in Sutton Coldfield in Pie Place Park. Now, the reason I'm talking to you here now is that your company's invited me to give this short talk to do with well-being. Now, this being Wellbeing Week, and with everything going on, you'll agree with lockdown, with COVID situation, it's more important now than ever to kind of really focus on mental and physical well-being. So with that in mind, let's get cracking. So I'm going to start off with a quote which has made a big impact in my life, and I hope it does the same thing for you there as well. And that is, do today what others don't to have tomorrow what others won't. Let me repeat that, guys. Do today what others don't to have tomorrow what others won't. What are you personally willing to do today that your competition around you is not willing to do to have tomorrow the kind of life, the kind of abundance, the kind of happiness that other people will not have because they weren't prepared for it the way that you have? Now, you see, since 2004, I've had a fascination with discovering what the differences are between the most successful people in the world and everyday average people like me. Now, when I say the most successful people, I don't just mean financially. So I'm not just talking about your millionaires and your billionaires. I'm more interested in the people who push the boundaries of human potential and limitations. So I'm talking about people like Foljar Singh. Now, for those of you who haven't heard of Foljar Singh, let me tell you, Foljar Singh ran a marathon, a distance of 26.2 miles, a distance that most people in their 20s would struggle to run. And Foljar Singh ran this at the age of, any guesses there, folks? Anybody here saying 50, 60, 70? You're all wrong there, guys. Foljar Singh ran a marathon at the age of 100. Now, I want to know what makes people like him tick. I want to know how he thinks, how he behaves, what his habits are, because I want to know if there's common characteristics between these highly successful people, these people who have this drive to kind of really kind of push their boundaries beyond the norm, so I can extract those qualities and apply them to my own life and become the best version of me possible. And I want the same thing for you there as well, guys. Now, the good news is that there are common characteristics. There are behavior patterns which are consistent with a lot of the high performers of the world, which I want to share some of with you, but we won't have time to really kind of go in depth in any of them. But that is my fundamental belief that there are no limitations in life. The only limitations are those that you place upon yourselves. The second that you tell yourself you can't do something, I absolutely guarantee you won't be able to do it. Now, this isn't down to the fact that you're not mentally or physically capable of doing all these things. There's a hell of a lot of things that you place limitations on, but you are mentally and physically capable of achieving them, but your brain is restricting you from actually accomplishing them and even attempting them in the first place. In much the same way that when you buy a car from the manufacturers, the vehicle will automatically have a governor put on the engine to restrict that top speed. So typically, most cars can go a lot faster than the numbers on the speedometer, but that restrictor is put in place to stop you from going excessive speeds, to keep you safer, to stop you from getting into accidents. In the same way, what the brain does is that when you try and do something that is different, unusual, something that is out of the norm, your brain will put a restriction on you and it will place a limitation on you. And not because it doesn't want you to achieve anything great, it's part of our primitive brain. Our brains are not designed to help us do something that is unusual. Your brain is there to help you survive, and that's all it's focused on. When you try and do something that really kind of pushes you, then your brain will put that restriction in place to keep you safe. It's called the spotlight effect, and it's a natural known phenomenon. So whenever you attempt something that is extreme, so let's say, for instance, if you want to take skydiving, for those who have ever done skydiving, you know what I'm talking about, is the thought of jumping out of a plane just fills you with dread, freaks you out, and your brain will really magnify all the potential things that can go wrong. And that's what tends to happen. We start to focus on all the challenges. So for instance, you'll probably imagine the plane taking off. You'll imagine, I don't know, the wings falling off. You might kind of imagine jumping out the plane, your parachute might not open up, and all these different things which are not rational things to be thinking about, because statistically we know that actually walking out in the middle of the street is more dangerous than jumping out of a plane. But our brain will perceive it to be a threat, and so it will magnify all the things that you're afraid of. So with that in mind, then I personally believe that there are no limitations in life, only those that you place upon yourselves. Now, a good example of this is I spent a short period of time of my life actually working as a teacher. So I was a supply teacher, working with secondary school kids. There's a particular student that I worked with who was a particularly challenging student. Now, all the teachers wrote him off and told me to do the same thing, to basically say, just leave him to his own devices, let him get into one more fight, one more argument with the teacher, and then we can expel him. I remember after one of the lessons, he actually came to me after the lesson had finished. Now, this is a student who used to walk out of my lessons probably about 10 minutes before the lesson even finished. He wouldn't wait for the bell to ring, he just walked straight out. And he came up to me after a lesson had finished when everyone had gone. Now, I knew this was unusual behavior, so I kind of looked at him and I was a bit kind of dubious at first. I said, can I help you? At that point, he really kind of opened up and he said, what were we doing today? Bottomless. I understood a bit of that. Then he started getting really kind of angry and he says, well, I didn't get all of it, did I? So I told him to kind of calm down. I says, don't worry about it. Now that you've shown some kind of winning, let's sit down during break time and I will talk you through everything to do with bottoms. And he did something interesting at this point. So he looked at me and he says, no, sir. He says, you are going to sit down with me during break time. Now, to stop him and say, listen, you don't understand. I love my break times. I love going to the teacher's office. I like kind of sitting down on the sofas, just having my cup of tea. And I said, look, why should I give you 15 minutes extra of my time when you don't pay attention to lessons? And he looked at me and said, sir, I've got something to prove to you. Now, I like that because that was fighting talk. He was willing to kind of push beyond his limitations. So we sat down and not one break time, I gave him 3 of my break times. 45 minutes extra of my time, and I'd explained this to him. I said, listen, time is one of the most precious things that I have. I've got nothing in my life that is more precious than time, because once time goes, I can't get that back. So I gave him this 45 minutes of a resource that I can't get back. So anyway, we discovered something very interesting in this 45 minutes. We discovered that this lad had a natural talent for mathematics, something he'd never explored up to this point. And the reason being is because he had gone to a school where all the kids in his year group were no good at maths. His parents, who had been to the same school many years before, were no good at maths. His mates' parents were no good at maths. What he had successfully done is surrounded himself with all these people who were no good at mathematics. He took somebody else's reality and he made it his own. So guys, this is a lesson for you there, folks. Do not take somebody else's limitations. Don't take somebody else's reality and apply it to your own life there, folks. Make sure that you decide what you want in life and don't put restrictions on yourself. I mean, come on, everyone knows who Sir Roger Bannister is. He's the guy that broke that 4-minute mile back in 1954. Now, incredible story as it is, what people don't appreciate is the backstory to this, and this is what I love about it. Now, what people don't know is Roger Bannister, prior to breaking that 4-minute mile, this is a record that was attempted for many, many years before. Now, when I say many, many years, I'm not just talking about 5 years before, 10 years before. I'm talking for thousands of years. Civilizations have tried to break this 4-minute mile. Now, we're talking as far back as the ancient Greeks. Now, the interesting thing about this was what they tried to do when breaking this 4-minute mile was that they were trying to incentivize their athletes. So they'd give them awards, they'd give them rewards, gold, whatever they wanted. One of the interesting things was that they would take their athletes and feed them tiger's milk, because they figured that tiger, being a very powerful animal, that would help them with their endeavor. There was an interesting one that I heard where they'd release the athletes and then release a lion behind them as well to chase them, to kind of incentivize these runners to kind of keep going. And for thousands of years, they tried to break this record with no success whatsoever. Kept getting close to it, but just no success. Now, when Roger Bannister tried to make this attempt, imagine this. Medical professionals, he himself being a medical student, medical professionals told him that if you break this 4-minute mile, the human heart cannot handle that level of stress and the human heart will explode. So imagine someone telling you that what you're doing, if you are successful, your heart's going to explode. Why would you try and push yourself to that kind of extreme? But that's something that Sir Roger Bannister actually put aside and pushed himself. And lo and behold, in 1954, he broke that record, breaking it at the time of 3 minutes, 59 seconds, 0.4 seconds, I think it was 59.4 seconds. That in itself is such an incredible story that, they made a movie about it, Chariots of Fire, just incredible. Now, what I find even more fascinating is that exactly 1 year later, after he broke that record in 1954, 1 year later, 33 people broke the 4-minute mile. 33 people. 2 years later there, folks, 300 people successfully broke the 4-minute mile. Now, this is after thousands of years people trying to break it, and suddenly this one gentleman proves to the world that it can be done. And what do you know? All these other people were able to achieve it as well. This is where your belief has to come from, that you have to believe that something is possible, and then once you do, you set the example for others as well. Also for yourself, if you're looking to achieve something, if you see someone who has achieved or accomplished something that you want to achieve or accomplish, Look at the examples of people who've already done it and following their footsteps. Now I want to take a quick moment to talk about some of the things that you can actually do, practical things that you can do in your life to actually improve your physical and mental well-being. Now, one of the most overlooked things that most people can do so easily but just don't tend to do is hydration. Now, what people don't appreciate is that 2% dehydration causes 20% loss of focus. Let me repeat that, guys. 2% dehydration causes 20% loss of focus. That means that if you are just 2% dehydrated, you are only operating at 80% of your maximum. Now, let me put that into another perspective because it doesn't sound so bad, but imagine that you work 5 days a week but only get paid for 4. Imagine how you feel about that. Imagine that your boss asked you to do 5 days of work but only in 4 days. Could you imagine how difficult that would make your life? Well, think about that. When you are 2% dehydrated, you are working at 4/5 of your maximum potential there. Is that if you're not taking enough fluids, those toxins remain in the system and they cause you harm over a long period of time. So hydration is incredibly important. And how do I know if I'm 2% dehydrated? It's not like your body has a battery indicator like your phone does. So one of the simplest ways to kind of have a rough idea of whether you are dehydrated is the roof of your mouth. When the roof of your mouth becomes just a little bit dry, that means that you're already 2% dehydrated. That means you're operating at 80% of your maximum. So that is an indicator that you need to start drinking some more water. So a great resource for this is just getting a water bottle, and you get these water bottles that have the hourly markers on there, so it gives you targets to be working towards. And I found that they tend to be quite good. I just have a 500ml bottle, and I just hammer through that 4 times a day, and I just don't finish the day without it. So at set periods of the day, I'll make sure I've drank so much. But hydration, incredibly important there, folks, and make sure you start getting plenty of fluids down you. Okay, so I want to talk to you about a topic which didn't settle with me very well to start off with, but since changing my perspective on it has made a big impact, and I want to share this with you as well, and that is meditation. Now, I had meditation all wrong for a long time, so I've known about meditation going back early 2000s, and just never took it seriously. I kind of always imagined it to be quite a hippie yoga. I had it in that kind of category of being quite kind of a soft way of thinking about mental well-being. But for me, I found that I started taking it a bit more seriously when there was a Navy SEAL who wrote a book about PTSD, and meditations were a big part of his ability to combat PTSD. Now, I myself, I'm a Gulf War veteran, and a lot of the guys I served with struggle with PTSD, and unfortunately, year on year, kept seeing on my Facebook newsfeed another person who committed suicide because of PTSD. So I was very conscious about my mental well-being and my mental space, and I wanted to do anything to kind of make sure that I didn't start suffering a similar kind of fate myself. So I started taking it a bit more kind of seriously, and I started looking into the science of meditation, and it turns out that there's a lot of very sound science in there. Now, one of the things that I think we don't appreciate is in the world that we have right now in the UK, most of us will have jobs that are very much white collar jobs. So you'll be sat behind a desk. So a lot of you I know have desk bound jobs, and even those who are working out on the motorways, you have jobs where you don't have clearly defined endpoints. And so a lot of you will find that you're taking work today, you're taking it home, and then straight to the next day. And that is affecting a lot of people. And the reason why it affects a lot of people is because imagine you got your computer here right now. So imagine you get your laptop and you open up one tab, and that's for a work commitment. So let's say your emails, and you open up another tab and it has Facebook. You have another tab which is for YouTube, another tab for X, Y, and Z. And then imagine that if it was possible, you can open up 1,000,000 tabs. Can you imagine what that would do to the processor speed of your computer? I mean, would you be surprised if you had 1,000,000 tabs open and then suddenly if you tried to type anything, there was a lag there? Of course you wouldn't, because you know that the processes have to distribute itself evenly between 1,000,000 different commitments. Well, there is research to kind of say that the average person in the UK, by the time they hit 25, they have 25 unresolved commitments from the past, which are like open loops in the brain. And the brain is constantly given a certain amount of function towards and a certain amount of focus on those every single day. And it's just running in the background and taking up processor speed. So what meditation does is it helps us to actually bring the mind into the present. Because there was somebody that actually kind of explained this to me. They said that anxiety is always worrying about So anxiety is constantly worrying about the future. Depression is worrying about the past. And meditation is about bringing you to the present. So with that in mind, let's explore why meditation works. So a lot of us are really kind of hit with stress. So our jobs can be stressful, our home lives can be stressful, just paying bills day to day can be stressful. And with everything going on at the moment, I mean, the level of stress that people are dealing with is incredible. So what that tends to do is it tends to kind of excite the nervous system. So imagine a saucepan with water in there and you have 1 grain of rice. Now turn the cooker up and bring that saucepan up to a boil, so it's really kind of excite all those molecules and everything's just really kind of chaotic in there. Now I want you to take a pair of chopsticks and try and pick out that grain of rice. Can you imagine how difficult that would be? Now that is what most people are dealing with when they're trying to extract stress out their lives and they're surprised that they can't. What we need to do is we need to de-excite the nervous system in the same way we take the analogy of the saucepan and turn the cooker down. What you tend to do is you reduce the energy, and then what you tend to do, de-excite the molecules in there, and it calms the water. Once water is calm, it becomes a lot easier to extract that stress out. And meditation is a practice of actually de-exciting the brain and giving yourself an opportunity to actually put into perspective what it is that you're stressing about and then do something about it rather than just keeping yourself in that excited state. So one of the things that I found was, firstly, I give myself a window of time. So at the moment, I mean, time is just so short. And with me doing the bootcamp class and all the other bits and pieces I have to do with that, with the business, I find I have very little time to watch TV. But when I did watch a lot of TV, I'd give myself a window of time of at least an hour where I'd switch off my phone, switch off the TV, and just allow the nervous system just start to relax a little bit. Now, the other thing I tend to do is I have a stretching program before I go to sleep. So I'll just sit in a quiet room, away from any kind of electronic stimulation, and just sit there and just go through all the stretches. So I'll stretch out my legs, my hamstrings, all the areas that I find tight, and then I just use that quiet time, just kind of start to de-excite the brain, stop stimulating the brain, and then that will calm your nervous system. In calming the nervous system, you'll start to realize all these thoughts start flooding in. And then what I encourage people to do is, if you're bombarded with all these commitments that you need to do, is externalize it at your brain. So have a piece of paper and a pen down next to you and start writing them down and extract them out of the brain. Once you've got a trusted system, you're no longer stressing about it in the brain, so you're not constantly hitting yourself with the same commitment again and again and again. And then once you've got it written down on a piece of paper, have an action plan for when you're going to execute those and break it down to simple steps. So that is my little tip for meditation. Okay, so all the things that we've just discussed there, all well and good, but how do we get ourselves to actually do it? Now, it all comes down to making a decision. You have to make a decision on what you want in life and stop committing to it. So if your decision is that you want a better quality of life, you want to be more present for your family, you want to be happier in your physical and mental well-being, if you want to have a better quality of life, these all require you to make a decision. And you're not waiting, like we said before, for New Year's resolutions. It's about taking action right now. Now, let's explore the word decision. Now, decision is a fascinating word for me personally because I've looked into the roots of the word, and the interesting thing, I'm going to share a random fact with you, is the word decision and the word scissors, they're derived from the same source. I think it's from Latin, but those two words have very similar roots, decision and the word scissors. Now, why am I sharing this random thought with you? The reason why I'm sharing this random fact, well, the reason why I am is because think about what you do with a pair of scissors. When you take a pair of scissors, you identify something on a piece of paper that you want. Once you've identified it, you cut it out and discard everything else. So you're left with what you want and you discard all the rest of that piece of paper. When you make a decision in life, you decide what you must have in life and you discard all other possibilities. Much the way when you hear about military leaders of the past, when they sail their army to another land and they make ready for war, what they do is that they burn the boats, they burn the ships behind them. So the troops knew that this is the decision made for you. You either win or you die. There is no retreat. And that's what we want to do here, folks, is you make a decision that you are going to lose X amount of weight, or you're going to start, putting a certain exercise routine in place that you're going to achieve X, Y, and Z. All these goals that you have, you're going to start working towards them, and there is nothing but success available to you. You're going to burn all of the bridges. So for instance, if you have a fitness goal and you want to drop 2 dress sizes, what I want you to do there, folks, is have 1, maybe 2 items of clothing that fit you right now and burn the rest. Get rid of them, give them away to charity, whatever you need to do there, folks. So next thing you know is that until you hit your ideal weight, you're going to be wearing those same clothes every single day, and the embarrassment of that should motivate you. If you've got a fitness goal there, if you've got a dietary goal, make sure that you just make a commitment that if anybody catches you eating that snack or that dessert or whatever it is, let's go extreme with this, that you give a friend of yours, you know, £200, and the second that they catch you doing anything that you said that you're not going to do, so having an extra dessert, having whatever it is, you know, whatever, then they're going to give that money to charity, and that should incentivize you to really kind of get going and really start sticking to those goals. So make sure that you set yourself a consequence for not achieving your goals. Okay, so when you ask people why they struggle to achieve a goal that they want to accomplish, they'll say that they lack the willpower, and that is true. I mean, we all have to have that struggle. We all have that struggle. And scientists are famous for saying that we have 1 brain but 2 minds. And when those 2 minds have conflicting opinions and conflicting goals, that is a willpower challenge. So for instance, the number of people I've come across who do want to eat healthier, that's one of their minds that has that goal of wanting to eat healthier. But the other mind, it wants that dessert because it likes the pleasure of having that dessert. And when those 2 minds have conflicting goals, what tends to happen is that the stronger of those 2 minds will override. So what we need to do is, when you want to achieve something, you want to put more credence and more value to that part of the brain that is looking to do the more positive thing, and that is how we're going to accomplish that willpower goal. Okay, so thank you very much for your time there, guys. Hope you found this short video of value to you. Now, if you want to keep in touch, so guys, you can go visit our website, so battlebootcamp.co.uk. My email address is nasir@battlebootcamp.co.uk, so that's NASIR. We're also on Instagram and on Facebook there as well, so you can see what we do on there. But guys, I wish you every success in everything that you do.